The Silent Watchers awaken. The stars had always belonged to the Zephyrian Empire, or so Admiral Korthak believed as he stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought Stellar Dominion. For 3 centuries, his people had swept across the galaxy like a cosmic storm, bringing world after world under their iron rule. Their ships were the largest, their weapons the most devastating, and their warriors the most feared. No species had ever stood against them for long. Korthak's reptilian features showed no emotion as he reviewed the latest conquest reports. The Andromedans had surrendered after seeing just one Zephyrian fleet. The crystal beings of Sirion had offered tribute before the first shot was fired. It was always the same pattern: fear, submission, integration into the Empire. The galaxy had learned to tremble at the sight of Zephyrian war banners. But today, something was different. Commander Thex, his most trusted scout leader, approached with an expression that Korthak had rarely seen before: uncertainty. "Admiral," Thex began, his voice carrying an odd tension, "we have detected something unusual in the Outer Rim territories. A small system, unremarkable except for one planet. The third world from their star shows signs of advanced technology." Korthak's interest was mildly piqued. Another primitive world playing with fire. What is their technological level? Thex hesitated, and that hesitation sent a chill through the bridge crew. "That is what concerns me, Admiral. Our long-range scanners detected energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Massive power sources, sophisticated orbital structures, and what appears to be a significant military presence." "Military presence," Korthak laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "How significant could it be?" "Show me." The main holographic display flickered to life, showing a blue and green world spinning peacefully in space. But as the image enhanced, details began to emerge that made the bridge crew fall silent. Enormous ring structures surrounded the planet like metallic halos. Asteroid fields nearby showed signs of artificial modification. Most troubling of all, there were ships. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, arranged in formations that spoke of military discipline and strategic thinking. "What do we know about this species?" Korthak demanded. "They call themselves humans, Admiral. Initial scans suggest they are relatively young as spacefaring civilizations go. Perhaps 2 centuries since their first ventures beyond their world. But the scale of their construction..." Thex paused. "It rivals our own." The bridge fell into contemplative silence. This was unprecedented. Most species the Zephyrians encountered were either primitive or had stagnated technologically. To find a young race with such capabilities was unsettling. "Have they detected our scouts?" "Unknown, Admiral. Our ships remain at extreme range, using passive sensors only. But there is something else." Thex activated another display showing intercepted communications. "We have been monitoring their transmissions. When our presence was first detected by their outer sensors, the response was unexpected." The display showed a human face, female with dark hair and calm, intelligent eyes. But what struck every Zephyrian on the bridge was her expression. She was smiling. Not the desperate smile of someone trying to appease a superior force, but something else entirely. Confident, almost amused. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Consortium." The recording played. "We welcome our visitors from the Zephyrian Empire. We have been aware of your approach for some time. If you wish to establish communication, we are prepared to receive your diplomatic envoys at coordinates we are transmitting now." The recording ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. No species had ever welcomed them. No one had ever been prepared for their arrival. And that smile, it suggested knowledge, preparation, perhaps even trap. "Admiral," Thex continued, "there is more. Our deep space monitors have been reviewing data from the past several years. It appears this species has been observing our expansion patterns. They have been watching us as we watch them." Korthak felt something he had not experienced in decades: genuine surprise. "Are you suggesting they know our capabilities?" I am suggesting they may know more about us than we know about them." The implications hung heavy in the recycled air of the bridge. The Zephyrian Empire's success had always been built on superior intelligence and overwhelming force applied to unprepared enemies. But here was a species that seemed to have been preparing for this encounter. "Summon the War Council," Korthek ordered. "I want full tactical assessments of their capabilities, and I want to know why they are smiling." Within hours, the Empire's best military minds had assembled in the strategic planning chamber. The holographic displays showed Earth from every angle, revealing more disturbing details with each enhanced scan. The orbital defense platforms were massive, larger than anything the Zephyrians had seen. The asteroid field modifications suggested mining and construction operations on an industrial scale that boggled the mind. "Their power generation alone," reported Chief Engineer Veldek, "exceeds what should be possible for a civilization of their age. These are not the energy signatures of a developing species. This is the infrastructure of a major galactic power. But they have never expanded beyond their system," pointed out Intelligence Commander Rixa. "All our records show they have remained in isolation. How do they possess such capabilities without conquest and resource acquisition from multiple worlds?" Admiral Korthek studied the displays with growing unease. "What about their military doctrine? Can we assess their combat capabilities?" "That is where the analysis becomes truly concerning," replied General Vorthak, the Empire's leading military strategist. "Their ship designs suggest a completely different approach to warfare than we have encountered. Where our vessels prioritize overwhelming firepower and heavy armor, theirs appear optimized for speed, maneuverability, and what seems to be advanced electronic warfare capabilities." Electronic warfare. Their energy signatures suggest sophisticated computer systems, advanced sensors, and what may be cybernetic attack capabilities. If they can disrupt our command and control systems, Vorthak did not need to finish the thought. The War Council continued for hours, each new piece of analysis adding to the growing picture of a species that defied everything they thought they knew about galactic development. Finally, Admiral Korthak made his decision. "We proceed with standard first contact protocols. One diplomatic vessel, supported by a small escort fleet. We will assess their true capabilities and intentions directly." "And if they prove hostile?" asked General Vorthak. "Then we will learn why they smile when facing the might of the Zephyrian Empire." 3 days later, the diplomatic vessel Swift Judgment dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human solar system, accompanied by a dozen escort destroyers. Immediately, their sensors were flooded with targeting locks from dozens of hidden weapons platforms. The humans had been waiting. "Unknown vessels," came a calm voice over the communication channels. "You are entering restricted space. Please state your intentions and prepare to be escorted to the designated meeting area." Commander Thex, leading the diplomatic mission, felt his confidence waver. The humans spoke as if they were the ones in control of this situation, as if a small group of Zephyrian ships was not a threat, but merely an expected inconvenience. "This is Commander Thex of the Zephyrian Empire. We come seeking dialogue with your leadership." "Acknowledged, Commander. Please follow the navigation beacons we are transmitting. Any deviation from the prescribed course will be considered a hostile act." As the Zephyrian ships followed the prescribed route deeper into the system, they were surrounded by an ever-increasing display of human military might. Ships emerged from asteroid hiding places, massive defense platforms tracked their movement, and swarms of smaller vessels maintained escort positions with precision that spoke of extensive training and discipline. But most unsettling of all were the human faces that appeared on their communication screens. Each one wore that same calm, confident smile, the expression of people who knew something their visitors did not. When the Zephyrian diplomatic vessel finally docked with the designated human station, Commander Thex found himself face to face with Captain Sarah Chen, the same human whose smile had first disturbed Admiral Korthak. In person, her confidence was even more unnerving. "Welcome to our system, Commander," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. We have been looking forward to this meeting for quite some time. You have been expecting us." "Oh yes," Captain Chen replied, her smile never wavering. "We have been watching your empire's expansion for decades. We know your methods, your tactics, your weaknesses. We know everything about you, Commander Thex. The question is, how much are you prepared to learn about us?" As Commander Thex looked into those calm, knowing eyes, he realized that the Zephyrian Empire had encountered something unprecedented. Not a primitive world to be conquered, but a species that had been studying them, preparing for them, waiting for them. And they were still smiling. When predators meet apex. The conference room aboard the human orbital station was unlike anything Commander Thex had ever seen, where Zephyrian architecture emphasized power and intimidation through massive scales and harsh angles. This space seemed designed for comfort and functionality. Soft lighting, organic curves, and materials that seemed to absorb rather than reflect harsh edges. Yet beneath the peaceful appearance, Thex could sense underlying strength. The walls were thick, the materials advanced, and discrete weapon ports were barely visible but definitely present. Captain Sarah Chen sat across from him at a circular table, still wearing that infuriating smile. Beside her sat a tall, thin human with graying hair and kind eyes that seemed to see everything. He had been introduced as Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's lead xenobiologist and first contact specialist. "Commander," Dr. Webb began in a voice that carried both warmth and authority. "Before we discuss the future of our species' relationship, perhaps you would like to understand why we seem so prepared for this encounter." Thex nodded, his military training warring with genuine curiosity. "Your confidence is unusual. Most species we encounter show appropriate respect for the power of the Zephyrian Empire." "Ah," Dr. Webb said, leaning back in his chair, "that is because most species you encounter have not had the luxury of studying you for as long as we have. Tell me, Commander, what do you know about human history?" The question seemed irrelevant, but Thex answered anyway. "Our intelligence suggests you are a relatively young spacefaring species, approximately 2 centuries since achieving faster-than-light travel. Your expansion has been limited to your home system, suggesting either technological limitations or cautious nature." Dr. Webb's smile matched Captain Chen's now. "Our expansion has been limited because we learned long ago that sometimes the best strategy is to appear weak while actually being strong. You see, Commander, humans have a very violent history. For thousands of years, we fought amongst ourselves with increasing sophistication and brutality. We learned to be very, very good at war." A holographic display activated in the center of the table, showing images that made Thex's reptilian blood run cold. Massive human conflicts, weapons of incredible destructive power, strategies of such ruthless efficiency that even Zephyrian military doctrine seemed primitive by comparison. "We learned something that your empire apparently has not," Dr. Webb continued. "The most dangerous predator is not the one that roars loudest, but the one that studies its prey in silence. We have been watching your empire's expansion for 67 years, Commander. We know how you fight, how you think, how you make decisions." Captain Chen activated another display. "We know that your standard first contact protocol involves a show of overwhelming force followed by demands for submission. We know that you prefer to avoid actual combat when possible, relying instead on psychological intimidation. We know that your fleet compositions prioritize heavy ships with massive energy weapons, making you vulnerable to small, fast vessels using hit-and-run tactics." Commander Thex felt his confidence crumbling. "You have been spying on us." "We have been learning about you," Captain Chen corrected, "just as any intelligent species would when faced with an expanding, aggressive empire. The question is, what did you think we were doing during those decades when we remained in our system? Did you imagine we were simply waiting for you to arrive and conquer us?" The implications hit Thex like a physical blow. While the Zephyrian Empire had been conquering world after world, growing complacent in their dominance, the humans had been watching, learning, preparing. They had turned their isolation into an advantage, using the time to study their potential enemies and develop countermeasures. "What do you want?" Thex asked, abandoning diplomatic niceties. "What we want," Dr. Webb said, "is for your empire to understand that Earth is not another world to be conquered. We are not afraid of you, Commander, because we have spent decades preparing for this exact scenario. Would you like to see what that preparation looks like?" Without waiting for an answer, Captain Chen activated the station's external sensors. The display showed space around the orbital station, but now revealed what had been hidden before: thousands of human vessels, not hundreds. Ship designs that incorporated technologies the Zephyrians had never seen. Weapons platforms that made their own defensive systems look primitive. "This is just one system's worth of our capabilities," Captain Chen said casually. "We have learned to be very efficient with our resources. Where your empire requires multiple worlds to support a single major fleet, we have learned to build everything we need from our asteroid belt and outer planets." "Impossible," Thex whispered. "No single system could support this level of industrial capacity." Dr. Webb chuckled. "Commander, you are thinking like a conqueror who strips resources from multiple worlds. We think like engineers who maximize the potential of what we have. Our asteroid belt alone contains more raw materials than your empire has harvested from a dozen conquered worlds. We simply learned to use it efficiently." The human called up another display showing mining operations and orbital factories on a scale that defied belief. Automated systems that could construct entire starships from raw asteroids. Manufacturing capabilities that could replace losses faster than any fleet could inflict them. "But the real advantage," Captain Chen said, "is not our industrial capacity. It is our mindset. Your empire conquers through intimidation and overwhelming force. But humans, we learned long ago that the strongest predator is not always the largest. Sometimes it is the smartest." Commander Thex thought of Admiral Korthak waiting with the main fleet, expecting reports of another easy conquest. "What are your terms?" "Terms?" Dr. Webb seemed genuinely surprised. "Commander, you misunderstand our position. We are not negotiating from weakness. We are offering you an opportunity to avoid a conflict that your empire cannot win. You cannot seriously believe that a single system could stand against the might of the Zephyrian Empire." Captain Chen's smile finally changed, becoming something far more dangerous. "Commander, let me explain something about human psychology. When we smile in a situation like this, it is not because we are trying to appear friendly or submissive. We smile because we know something our opponent does not. In this case, we know that while your empire has been expanding and conquering, we have been preparing for a war that you cannot even imagine." She activated one final display, and Commander Thex's world changed forever. It showed Zephyrian ships, hundreds of them, but they were not conquering new worlds. They were burning in space, disabled by weapons that had struck without warning from impossible distances. It showed Zephyrian command centers going dark, as computer systems were corrupted by viruses more sophisticated than anything in their databases. It showed the proud Zephyrian Empire being systematically dismantled by an enemy they had never seen coming. "This is a simulation," Dr. Webb explained gently, "based on our analysis of your capabilities and our own. It shows what would happen if your empire chose to attack Earth. The war would last approximately 14 months. Your empire would lose." Commander Thex stared at the display in horror. Everything he had believed about Zephyrian superiority was crumbling around him. This cannot be accurate." "Commander," Captain Chen said, her voice suddenly serious, "we do not want this war. Humans have fought enough wars to last a lifetime. What we want is for your empire to understand that some prey species are actually apex predators in disguise. We want mutual respect, not mutual destruction." Dr. Webb leaned forward. "Your empire has two choices, Commander. You can recognize Earth as an equal power and establish diplomatic relations based on mutual benefit, or you can discover through bitter experience that humans do not make good victims." The silence in the conference room stretched for long minutes. Finally, Commander Thex spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "What would you have me tell Admiral Korthek?" "Tell him," Captain Chen said, her smile returning but warmer now, less predatory. "That humans smile when we are confident. And we are very, very confident. Tell him that Earth offers friendship to those who approach us as equals, but we have prepared for those who do not." As Commander Thex prepared to return to his ship with news that would shake the Zephyrian Empire to its foundations, he finally understood what that human smile meant. It was not submission or fear or even friendliness. It was the quiet confidence of a species that had looked into the darkness of their own violent nature and learned to master it. It was the smile of apex predators who had learned to prefer peace but were fully prepared for war. And for the first time in 3 centuries, the Zephyrian Empire would have to decide whether to face a species that might actually be stronger than they were. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous worlds were the quiet ones that had been watching and waiting. The humans were still smiling, and now the entire empire would learn why. First contact protocol breach. The quantum sensors aboard the ESS Horizon hummed with an unusual frequency as Dr. Elena Santos adjusted the detection parameters. The research vessel's sleek profile cut through the darkness of space, its sophisticated stealth systems making it nearly invisible to conventional scanners. They weren't supposed to be here. No human ship had ventured this deep into the restricted zone in over 3 centuries. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's main viewport, her dark eyes fixed on the distant star cluster that marked the boundary of known space. "Status report, Dr. Santos." "The signal's getting stronger, Captain." Elena's fingers danced across the holographic interface. "Whatever it is, it's not natural. The energy signature matches nothing in our database, but the complexity suggests advanced technology." The bridge crew worked in tense silence. They all knew the stakes. The Galactic Council's punishment for violating restricted space was severe, immediate destruction without warning. But the signal they detected 3 weeks ago was too important to ignore. "Multiple contacts." Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the silence. "Quantum wake signatures at bearing 047. Council vessels incoming." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Time to intercept." 8 minutes, assuming current velocity. "They shouldn't be able to detect us," Elena protested, looking up from her station. "Our stealth systems." "They didn't detect us," Sarah interrupted, a grim smile playing at her lips. "They were waiting." "Tactical, show me the patrol pattern." The holographic display revealed a complex web of Council ship movements. They hadn't stumbled into a random patrol. This was a carefully maintained defensive grid. "They're protecting something," Elena whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. Sarah nodded. "And I bet it's connected to your mysterious signal. All hands. Battle stations. This is not a drill." Warning lights pulsed throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their posts. The ES Horizon might be classified as a research vessel, but like all human ships that ventured into deep space, she had teeth. Council vessels broadcasting on all frequencies. Communications Officer Chen reported. "Standard warnings. We are ordered to power down and prepare for immediate destruction." "How diplomatic of them," Sarah muttered. "Dr. Santos, how close are we to the signal source?" Elena consulted her readings. 20 minutes at current speed. "But Captain, if we continue on this course, we'll be right in their firing solution." "I know." Sarah straightened her uniform. "Open a channel to the Council ships." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the crystalline features of a Vardari commander. The alien's faceted eyes reflected the bridge lights as it spoke, translator software converting its harmonic language to standard English. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Your presence here violates Treaty Section 47.3. Power down your systems immediately." Sarah stepped forward. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Science Ship Horizon. We are pursuing a signal of unknown origin that may pose a threat to both Council and human space. We request temporary clearance to investigate." The Vardari's crystalline features shifted in what might have been amusement or contempt. Your species lost the right to make such requests 3 centuries ago. You have 5 minutes to comply with shutdown orders. The signal. Commander, Sarah pressed. Have you detected it? Have you investigated it? Or are you just following orders written before any of us were born? The alien's response was cut off by Elena's urgent voice. Captain. The signal. It's changing. All eyes turned to the science station's displays. The mysterious energy signature had begun pulsing with increasing intensity, its pattern shifting from random noise to something distinctly artificial. It's a beacon, Elena breathed. It's activating because we're here. Because humans are here. The council ships were moving now, their formation tightening around the horizon. Sarah had seconds to make a decision that could start a war. Helm, plot a course directly to the signal source. Full power to engines and defensive systems. She turned back to the screen, meeting the Vardari commander's gaze. We're not leaving. That beacon is tied to humanity somehow, and we have a right to know why it's here in restricted space. You can either help us investigate, or you can fire on a science vessel seeking knowledge. Choose carefully. The Vardari's crystalline surface rippled with color. You are either very brave or very foolish, Captain Chen. Perhaps both. It paused, faceted eyes shifting. You have 3 minutes before we open fire. For what it's worth, Sarah replied. I think we're about to discover why your council was so determined to keep humans away from this sector. Horizon out. As the screen went dark, Sarah turned to her crew. Everyone clear on what we're doing? Elena looked up from her station, brown eyes bright with a mixture of fear and excitement. We're about to solve a 300-year-old mystery, or start an interstellar war. Possibly both, Sarah agreed. All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers. Whatever's out there, whatever secrets the Council's been keeping, we're about to find out. The ESS Horizon accelerated toward the signal source, its powerful engines pushing against the fabric of space-time. Behind them, the Council ships began to move, their weapons charging. Ahead lay either answers or oblivion, and Sarah Chen had committed them all to finding out which. The ancient beacon pulsed stronger with each passing second, its message meant for human eyes alone, waiting to reveal secrets that would shake the foundations of galactic society. The next few minutes would change everything, assuming they lived long enough to discover why. The price of knowledge. The first shots from the Council vessels carved brilliant paths through space, their energy weapons designed to cripple rather than destroy. Captain Chen watched as the Horizon's tactical display tracked multiple incoming projectiles. Evasive pattern Delta, she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing tension. Dr. Santos, how much longer to the beacon's location? Elena's fingers flew across her console, compensating for their evasive maneuvers. 3 minutes at current speed. But Captain, the energy readings, they're off the scale. Whatever this beacon is, it's not just sending a signal anymore. It's powering up. The ship shuddered as a glancing blow struck their aft shields. Lieutenant Park called out damage reports while executing another series of complex evasive maneuvers. The Horizon might be outgunned, but human ships had always emphasized speed and maneuverability. Multiple quantum signatures, Park announced. More Council ships entering the area. But Sarah's attention was fixed on something else. Through the main viewport, a strange distortion had become visible, a shimmer in space that seemed to bend light around itself. Dr. Santos, are you seeing this? Yes, Elena breathed, her instruments struggling to make sense of the readings. It's some kind of cloaking field, but the technology. Captain, this is centuries beyond anything we've seen, beyond anything the Council has. The pursuing Council ships had noticed it too. Their formation faltered, weapons fire becoming more sporadic as they processed this new development. The Vardari commander's face appeared on their screen again, crystalline features shifting with barely contained agitation. Human vessel, stand down immediately. You don't understand what you're approaching. Sarah leaned forward in her chair. Then explain it to us, Commander. What are you protecting here? What are you afraid we'll find? Before the Vardari could respond, Alina's voice cut through the tension. Captain, the beacon. It's transmitting something. Direct neural interface protocols. It's trying to communicate. Sarah made her decision in an instant. Route it through my station. Full quarantine protocols. Sarah, no. Alina protested. We don't know what. But Captain Chen had already activated her neural link. For a moment, the bridge of the horizon seemed to fade away, replaced by a cascade of images and information that threatened to overwhelm her consciousness. She saw Earth, but not as it existed now. She saw massive ships, human ships, traversing the galaxy long before the Council had formed. She saw wars and peace, triumph and devastation. And she saw something else, a threat so vast it had united dozens of alien species in desperate alliance. When Sarah's vision cleared, she found Alina kneeling beside her chair, concern evident on her face. I'm all right, she managed, though her voice felt rough. But now I understand. Park, full stop. Open a channel to all Council vessels. The Vardari commander appeared again, but this time Sarah noticed something different in its stance. Fear, perhaps, or resignation. Your people weren't trying to contain humanity, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. You were protecting us, hiding us. The beacon, it's human technology, isn't it? From before the Council, before the restriction. The crystalline alien seemed to age before their eyes. Your species' history is complicated, Captain Chen. Your ancestors faced a choice. Remain free but risk extinction, or accept protection through isolation. They chose to forget, to let us guard their secrets until humanity was ready. Alina's scientific curiosity overcame her medical concern. Ready for what? For them. The Vardari replied simply. The ones who sleep between galaxies. The ones your ancestors fought to a stalemate, but couldn't defeat. The ones who will return. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah closed her eyes, the beacon's downloaded knowledge still sorting itself through her mind. The restriction wasn't a punishment, she said slowly. It was a shield. The Council didn't fear humanity. They feared what would follow us back into the galaxy. And now you understand why this sector remains restricted, the Vardari commander said. Why some secrets must remain buried. But Sarah was already shaking her head. No, humanity didn't choose this. A handful of our ancestors chose it for us. And from what I just learned, we're running out of time to prepare. She straightened in her chair, decision made. Dr. Santos, download everything you can from that beacon. Commander, I suggest you contact your superiors. The game of pretend is over. The Vardari's crystalline surface rippled with concern. Captain Chen, if you proceed with this course of action, there will be consequences. The Council has been lying to everyone for centuries, Sarah interrupted. About humanity, about our history, about the real threats out there in the dark. Well, now we know the truth, and I don't intend to let humanity face what's coming unprepared. Alina looked up from her station, eyes wide. Captain, the beacon's data. It's not just history. There are designs here, technology we thought was impossible. The things we could learn. The things we'll need. Sarah corrected grimly. Because if what I saw in that vision is accurate, we're going to need every advantage we can get. She turned back to the Vardari commander. You can either help us prepare for what's coming, or you can keep playing guardian. But humanity's isolation ends today. The Council ships maintained their positions, weapons still charged but no longer targeting the horizon. In the silence that followed, Sarah could almost feel the weight of history shifting, of carefully maintained lies beginning to unravel. The ancient beacon pulsed one final time before going dark, its message delivered, its purpose fulfilled. Humanity had found its way back to the stars, back to its forgotten legacy. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, something stirred, sensing the awakening of an old enemy. The game of hide and seek was over. The real war was about to begin. Diplomatic waves. The Grand Council chamber on Nexus Station hadn't seen such chaos in centuries. Representatives from 200 species filled the vast circular space, their voices rising in a cacophony of argument and accusation. The holographic data from the ESS Horizon's beacon Discovery played above their heads, impossible to ignore. High Counselor Vex of the Vardari stood at the central podium, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that reflected their agitation. Order. We must have order. In the human diplomatic box, Ambassador Marcus Wong sat quietly, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he watched the proceedings. Behind him, Captain Chen and Dr. Santos waited, still wearing their ship's uniforms, living symbols of humanity's interrupted isolation. The humans violated restricted space, bellowed Representative Kral of the Hegemony, his massive armored form towering over his sector's podium. The punishment is clear, immediate destruction. And yet here they stand, countered Representative Lyra of the Stellar Commonwealth, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with emphasis. Here they stand with proof that all of us, have been deceived for generations. Sarah leaned closer to Ambassador Wong. They're focusing on the wrong thing, she whispered. The beacon's warning. Patience, Captain, Wong murmured. Let them process one existential crisis at a time. High Counselor Vex raised all four arms, demanding silence. We will have order, or this chamber will be cleared. The situation is complex. The situation is simple, Kral interrupted. The founders established the restriction for a reason. They saw humanity's potential for violence, for chaos. The founders lied. The new voice cut through the chamber like a plasma torch. All eyes turned to Elder Shen of the Arxer, one of the oldest living members of the Council. The ancient being's cybernetic systems hummed as they floated to the center of the chamber. I was there, Elder Shen continued, their synthesized voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. I was there when the founders made their choice, when they decided that the galaxy would be safer if humanity forgot its true history, its true power. Elena Santos stepped forward, unable to contain herself. You helped erase our history, our technology, our identity. We helped save your species, Elder Shen corrected. The Void Hunters had already destroyed 3 human worlds. Your ancestors' technology, advanced as it was, could only fight them to a stalemate. The restriction was meant to hide you, to give humanity time to develop naturally, without drawing their attention again. Ambassador Wong's calm facade finally cracked. And who gave you the right to make that choice for us? Your own leaders did. Elder Shen's cybernetic eyes focused on the human delegation. They understood the price of defiance. The Void Hunters do not forgive, do not forget, and do not leave survivors. Your isolation was the price of the galaxy's protection, and your own. And now? Sarah Chen asked, her voice carrying across the chamber. The beacon's data shows they're waking up. The void between galaxies is stirring. What's your plan now, Elder? Before the ancient being could respond, new alarms blared throughout the chamber. The central holographic display shifted, showing multiple spatial anomalies appearing at the edge of Council space. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. The tactical officer's voice echoed through the chamber. Energy signatures match nothing in our database. Ambassador Wong stood slowly, his eyes fixed on the display. Nothing in your database, perhaps, but we've seen them before, haven't we, Elder Shen? In the memories the beacon showed us, the Void Hunters have been watching, waiting. They knew the moment humanity rediscovered its past. The chamber erupted in panic. Species that had been arguing moments before huddled together, ancient rivalries forgotten in the face of a greater threat. High Counselor Vex struggled to maintain order as reports of more spatial anomalies flooded in. Sarah turned to Elena. Dr. Santos, the beacon's technical data, already transmitted to Earth, Elena confirmed. Our scientists are studying it now, but it'll take time to understand, let alone implement. Time we may not have, Ambassador Wong noted grimly. High Counselor Vex finally restored enough order to be heard. The council must vote. The restriction. The restriction is irrelevant now, Elder Shen interrupted. The choice is simple. We stand together, or we die alone. Humanity's technology, combined with 3 centuries of council advancements. The ancient being's cybernetic eyes swept the chamber. It might give us a fighting chance. Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and determined. The beacon showed us more than just the Void Hunters. It showed us why the Founders really feared humanity's potential. Not because we were violent, but because we never stopped fighting, never accepted defeat, even against impossible odds. The chamber had grown quiet, hundreds of alien species watching as humanity's captain continued. We didn't just fight the Void Hunters to a stalemate. We found weaknesses in beings that had destroyed entire galaxies. We developed weapons that could hurt them, strategies that could confuse them. And now, with your help, we can do more than just fight them to a draw. Ambassador Wong nodded slowly. The restriction ends today, not because we demanded, but because we all need each other to survive what's coming. The real question is, will the Council acknowledge its mistakes and move forward, or will pride doom us all? The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Species that had been bitter enemies found themselves considering alliance. Younger races looked to their elders for guidance, only to find them deep in consultation. High Counselor Vex raised their arms once more. We will vote. But first, Captain Chen, Dr. Santos, show us everything the beacon revealed. If we are to face this threat together, we must understand what we face. As Elena began transferring the beacon's data to the chamber's main display, Sarah caught Ambassador Wong's eye. Think they'll make the right choice. The ambassador's smile was grim but determined. They'll make the only choice they can. The real question is, will it be enough? Above them, the holographic display began showing humanity's forgotten battles against the Void Hunters, while at the edges of Council space, ancient enemies stirred once more. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had been hidden away, and why that hiding had only delayed the inevitable. Diplomatic waves. The Grand Council chamber on Nexus Station hadn't seen such chaos in centuries. Representatives from 200 species filled the vast circular space, their voices rising in a cacophony of argument and accusation. The holographic data from the ESS Horizon's beacon discovery played above their heads, impossible to ignore. High Counselor Vex of the Vardari stood at the central podium, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that reflected their agitation. Order. We must have order. In the human diplomatic box, Ambassador Marcus Wong sat quietly, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he watched the proceedings. Behind him, Captain Chen and Dr. Santos waited, still wearing their ship's uniforms, living symbols of humanity's interrupted isolation. The humans violated restricted space, bellowed Representative Kral of the hegemony, his massive armored form towering over his sector's podium. The punishment is clear, immediate destruction. And yet here they stand, countered Representative Lyra of the Stellar Commonwealth, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with emphasis. Here they stand with proof that all of us, have been deceived for generations. Sarah leaned closer to Ambassador Wong. They're focusing on the wrong thing, she whispered. The beacon's warning. Patience, Captain, Wong murmured. Let them process one existential crisis at a time. High Counselor Vex raised all 4 arms, demanding silence. We will have order, or this chamber will be cleared. The situation is complex. The situation is simple. Krell interrupted. The Founders established the restriction for a reason. They saw humanity's potential for violence, for chaos. The Founders lied. The new voice cut through the chamber like a plasma torch. All eyes turned to Elder Shen of the Arxer, one of the oldest living members of the Council. The ancient being's cybernetic systems hummed as they floated to the center of the chamber. I was there, Elder Shen continued, their synthesized voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. I was there when the founders made their choice, when they decided that the galaxy would be safer if humanity forgot its true history, its true power. Elena Santos stepped forward, unable to contain herself. You helped erase our history, our technology, our identity. We'd helped save your species, Elder Shen corrected. The Void Hunters had already destroyed 3 human worlds. Your ancestors' technology, advanced as it was, could only fight them to a stalemate. The restriction was meant to hide you, to give humanity time to develop naturally, without drawing their attention again. Ambassador Wang's calm facade finally cracked. And who gave you the right to make that choice for us? Your own leaders did. Elder Shen's cybernetic eyes focused on the human delegation. They understood the price of defiance. The Void Hunters do not forgive, do not forget, and do not leave survivors. Your isolation was the price of the galaxy's protection, and your own. And now? Sarah Chen asked, her voice carrying across the chamber. The beacon's data shows they're waking up. The void between galaxies is stirring. What's your plan now, Elder? Before the ancient being could respond, new alarms blared throughout the chamber. The central holographic display shifted, showing multiple spatial anomalies appearing at the edge of Council space. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. The tactical officer's voice echoed through the chamber. Energy signatures match nothing in our database. Ambassador Wang stood slowly, his eyes fixed on the display. Nothing in your database, perhaps, but we've seen them before, haven't we, Elder Shen? In the memories the beacon showed us, the Void Hunters have been watching, waiting. They knew the moment humanity rediscovered its past. The chamber erupted in panic. Species that had been arguing moments before huddled together. Ancient rivalries forgotten in the face of a greater threat. High Counselor Vex struggled to maintain order as reports of more spatial anomalies flooded in. Sarah turned to Elena. Dr. Santos, the beacon's technical data, already transmitted to Earth. Elena confirmed. Our scientists are studying it now, but it'll take time to understand, let alone implement. Time we may not have, Ambassador Wang noted grimly. High Counselor Vex finally restored enough order to be heard. The Council must vote. The restriction. The restriction is irrelevant now, Elder Shen interrupted. The choice is simple. We stand together, or we die alone. Humanity's technology, combined with 3 centuries of Council advancements, the ancient being's cybernetic eyes swept the chamber. It might give us a fighting chance. Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and determined. The beacon showed us more than just the Void Hunters. It showed us why the founders really feared humanity's potential. Not because we were violent, but because we never stopped fighting, never accepted defeat, even against impossible odds. The chamber had grown quiet, hundreds of alien species watching as humanity's captain continued. We didn't just fight the Void Hunters to a stalemate. We found weaknesses in beings that had destroyed entire galaxies. We developed weapons that could hurt them, strategies that could confuse them. And now, with your help, we can do more than just fight them to a draw. Ambassador Wang nodded slowly. The restriction ends today. Not because we demand it, but because we all need each other to survive what's coming. The real question is, will the Council acknowledge its mistakes and move forward, or will pride doom us all? The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Species that had been bitter enemies found themselves considering alliance. Younger races looked to their elders for guidance, only to find them deep in consultation. High Counselor Vex raised their arms once more. We will vote. But first, Captain Chen, Dr. Santos, show us everything the beacon revealed. If we are to face this threat together, we must understand what we face. As Elena began transferring the beacon's data to the chamber's main display, Sarah caught Ambassador Wang's eye. Think they'll make the right choice. The ambassador's smile was grim but determined. They'll make the only choice they can. The real question is, will it be enough? Above them, The holographic display began showing humanity's forgotten battles against the Void Hunters, while at the edges of Council space, ancient enemies stirred once more. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had been hidden away, and why that hiding had only delayed the inevitable. Battle lines. The ESS Horizons bridge was barely recognizable. Council engineers had worked alongside human technicians for 3 straight days, integrating ancient human weapons technology with modern Council systems. Dr. Elena Santos stood at her modified science station, monitoring the quantum field distortions growing at the edge of the system. "They're getting stronger," she reported, glancing at Captain Chen. "The Void Hunters aren't trying to hide anymore." Sarah nodded, studying the tactical display where dozens of Council ships moved into defensive positions. The Vardari battle cruiser Crystal Dawn hung off their starboard bow, its newly modified weapons systems pulsing with combined human Council technology. Commander Vex had insisted on being part of the first line of defense. "Fleet status?" Sarah asked, watching as more ships arrived through quantum space. Lieutenant Park's fingers danced across his console. 27 Council vessels, 15 human ships. The Arxer Dreadnought Memory of Dawn is holding position at the system's edge with their long-range sensors active. The Council had moved with unprecedented speed once the vote was cast. Ancient vaults had been opened, sharing technological secrets that had been hidden for centuries. Humanity, in turn, had transmitted everything they'd learned from the beacon. The resulting fusion of technologies had produced weapons and defenses that neither side could have developed alone. Multiple quantum ruptures. Elena's voice cut through the bridge's tension. "They're bigger than anything we've seen before." The tactical display lit up as massive tears in spacetime appeared throughout the system. From these wounds in reality emerged shapes that seemed to defy physics. Massive vessels that appeared to be made of living darkness, their surfaces writhing with patterns that hurt the eye to look at. 7 Void Hunter capital ships detected, Park reported, his voice steady despite the impossible sight. "Energy readings are overwhelming." Sarah opened a channel to the fleet. "All vessels, maintain formation. Remember the simulations. Their weapons are powerful, but the beacon showed us their weaknesses. They can be hurt. They can be killed." Commander Vex's crystalline face appeared on a secondary screen. "Captain Chen, the quantum field distortions are matching the patterns from your historical records. They're preparing to use their main weapons." The first attack came without warning. The beam of pure darkness lanced out from the leading Void Hunter vessel, literally bending space around it. A Council cruiser vanished instantly, not destroyed but simply erased from existence. "All ships, evasive pattern echo." Sarah ordered, "Begin deployment of quantum anchors." The human Council fleets scattered in perfect coordination, their movements practiced over countless drills. Small devices launched from their ships, creating a web of quantum-locked space that would prevent the Void Hunters from using their reality-erasing weapons effectively. "Quantum web is holding," Elena reported. "Their erasure beams are being deflected." The Void Hunters seemed to pause, perhaps surprised by this resistance. Their ships shifted, ancient patterns rippling across their dark surfaces as they adjusted their strategy. They recognized the technology, Sarah realized. They know we remember. The space between the fleets erupted in chaos as the Void Hunters launched their full assault. Beams of darkness crackled against quantum shields, while reality itself buckled under the strain of weapons that should not exist. But this time, the defenders were ready. Human ships darted through the chaos with impossible precision, their enhanced engines allowing maneuvers that even the Void Hunters couldn't predict. Council vessels provided covering fire with weapons that combined their energy mastery with humanity's forgotten innovations. Direct hit on the lead vessel. Park called out as the Crystal Dawn's main guns fired. The combined human Council weapons struck the Void Hunter ship, and for the first time in history, the darkness screamed. "Their quantum field is destabilizing," Elena reported, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. The beacon was right. They're not invulnerable anymore. The battle shifted as the defenders pressed their advantage. The Void Hunters' coordinated movements became more erratic, their attacks more desperate. These beings had destroyed galaxies, had forced humanity into hiding, but they had never faced a unified response like this. Multiple quantum signatures. Park's voice carried a note of warning. More Void Hunter ships incoming. Sarah gritted her teeth. They're calling reinforcements. All ships, prepare for. She was cut off by new alarms as massive quantum ruptures appeared behind the Void Hunter fleet. But instead of reinforcements, new vessels emerged, ships that combined the organic grace of Council design with the aggressive efficiency of human engineering. "This is Admiral Zhang of the combined fleet," a new voice announced on all channels. "Sorry, we're late to the party. The new shipyards needed a little more time than expected." The tactical display updated to show hundreds of new vessels entering the battle, each carrying weapons and defenses that represented the full cooperation of humanity and the Council. The Void Hunters found themselves caught between two forces, their ancient tactics useless against this unprecedented alliance. "All ships," Sarah commanded, allowing herself a small smile, attack pattern Omega. "Let's show them why they should have finished the job 3 centuries ago." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The Void Hunters fought with the desperate fury of beings who had never known defeat, but they faced an enemy they had inadvertently created. By forcing humanity into isolation, by making the Council hide them away, they had given their ancient opponents time to evolve, to advance in ways they couldn't predict. And now, as human determination combined with Council wisdom, as ancient enemies fought side by side against a greater threat, the galaxy witnessed something new. The beginning of the Void Hunter's end. The darkness could be wounded. The unstoppable could be delayed. And in the space above a forgotten battlefield, humanity proved why they had been hidden away. Not because they were too violent, but because they were too determined to ever accept defeat. Breaking chains. 3 months after the first battle, the combined human Council fleet gathered at the edge of the void. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned HCS Horizon, no longer a mere research vessel, but a warship that represented the peak of combined human and Council engineering. Dr. Elena Santos joined her at the viewport, her uniform now bearing both human and Council insignia. "The quantum readings are clear," she said quietly. "We've found their point of origin." Below them, in the ship's massive engineering section, Vardari crystalline matrices powered weapons designed by human engineers. Throughout the vessel, dozens of species worked together, their differences forgotten in the face of extinction. "Fleet status?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. She'd helped plan this operation for weeks. "Over 1,000 ships," Elena replied. "The largest combined fleet in galactic history. The Council's putting everything into this strike." Ambassador Wong entered the observation deck, accompanied by High Counselor Vex. The Vardari leader's crystalline form had been modified with human-designed quantum shielding, a visible symbol of their cooperation. "The Council is ready," Vex announced, their harmonics carrying both determination and concern. "But Captain, you understand what we're attempting. No one has ever attacked the Void Hunters in their home dimension. The physical laws there are different," Sarah finished. "That's why they were so powerful in our space. But now we understand their technology, thanks to the beacon. And thanks to your scientists, we know how to survive in their realm." The tactical display showed the massive fleet moving into position. Human ships flew in perfect formation with Council vessels, their combined technologies creating defensive screens that would have been impossible months ago. "Message from Admiral Zhang," Elena reported. "The quantum breach device is ready." Sarah nodded, turning to face the assembled leaders. 3 centuries ago, humanity faced the Void Hunters alone. We fought them to a stalemate, but couldn't defeat them. The Council chose to hide us away, thinking isolation would keep us safe. Instead, it gave us time to evolve, to advance, to become something new. And now we face them together, High Counselor Vex added, their crystalline surface reflecting the starlight. As we should have from the beginning. The quantum breach device activated, tearing a hole in reality larger than any they'd seen before. Through it, they could see the void, the space between galaxies where the hunters had waited, watching, planning their return. All ships, Sarah commanded, her voice carrying to every vessel in the fleet, prepare for quantum transition. Remember your training. The laws of physics will be different there, but our combined technologies will protect us. The Void Hunters have never been attacked in their own realm. They think it's impossible. Let's show them how humanity defines impossible. The fleet moved forward as one, council ships and human vessels crossing the threshold between dimensions. The void was everything and nothing. A space where reality itself was malleable, where the hunters had evolved to become living weapons. But they weren't ready for what humanity and the council had become. The battle that followed would be remembered as long as sentient beings looked to the stars. Human determination combined with council wisdom, as reality itself became a battlefield. The Void Hunters fought with the fury of beings who had never known true defeat, but they faced an enemy that had evolved beyond their understanding. Quantum weapons designed by human engineers, powered by Vardari crystals, struck at the very essence of the hunters. Council ships protected by human design shields navigated the impossible physics of the void. Species that had once feared each other fought side by side, their combined strength greater than the sum of their parts. Hours stretched into what felt like days as the battle raged across dimensions. The Void Hunters' home dimension became their prison as the combined fleet struck at the heart of their power. Their ability to erase reality meant nothing against quantum-anchored shields. Their mastery of void physics faltered against weapons designed to operate in their own realm. And in the end, as the last hunter fell, as their dimension began to collapse without their presence to maintain it, the fleet retreated through the quantum breach. They left behind not just a defeated enemy, but the fear that had haunted both humanity and the Council for centuries. Weeks later, the Grand Council chamber was filled again, but this time not with argument or accusation. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to sign the new galactic charter. The restriction was formally ended, replaced with articles of cooperation and mutual defense. Sarah stood with Alina and Ambassador Wong as High Counselor Vex addressed the chamber. Today marks not just the end of an ancient enemy, but the beginning of a new age. We learned that our greatest strength lies not in hiding from threats, but in facing them together. Humanity reminded us of what we could become when we put aside our fears and stood united. The ESS Horizon's original mission had been to investigate a mysterious signal. Instead, it had sparked a revolution that transformed galactic society. As Sarah watched the various species mingling freely in the chamber, she smiled at the thought of what they could accomplish next. "Ready for our next mission?" Elena asked, studying data from the quantum sensors they'd placed in the void. "There are still mysteries out there." Sarah nodded, thinking of the vast universe that awaited them. The Void Hunters were gone, but they had left behind technologies and questions that would take generations to understand. And now, with humanity and the Council working together, there was no limit to what they could achieve. "The real adventure," she said, "is just beginning." In the space where dimensions met, the combined fleet maintained its vigilant watch. Human ships flew alongside Council vessels, their crews working together to ensure the Void Hunters never returned. The barrier between galaxies was no longer a hiding place for ancient horrors, but a frontier to be explored by a united galaxy. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, new mysteries waited to be discovered by a civilization that had finally learned to face its fears together.